This is not a video about ReZero. Well, I guess it kinda is, but I'm actually not going to talk much about the start of the new season. I more so wanted to focus on how important the mere existence of an anime can be on a personal level. It's an exaggeration to say that the first season of ReZero is the reason that this channel exists, mostly because that's not true, but looking back, in a lot of ways it set the groundwork for this version of myself existing. ReZero was the first ever anime I really obsessed over on a week-to-week basis. The first seasonal show I had to watch on the day it aired every week. The only problem was I had literally no one to talk about it with. My one anime friend at the time wasn't watching it, so I resorted to posting comments on the Crunchyroll episodes themselves or replying to Crunchyroll posts on Facebook. So if you're ever wondering what kind of person does that, here you go. It was a dark time, but also a special time. Obsessing over a show that completely is something that happens less and less as time goes on and completed anime pile up. Eventually that fall I would join an IGN anime Facebook group and finally had other people to discuss anime with. What happened over the next nearly 4 years is a story for another time. But fast forward to now, and despite all this, I hadn't really thought too much about Season 2 of ReZero up to it finally airing this season. Probably because there's just a lot of other things going on right now. Even when it was announced though, I was like, oh cool, and same thing with the delay, it was just a quick mental note and that's it. So I was honestly a little surprised when I started watching the first episode of Season 2 and was just hit with this feeling of overwhelming happiness. And given the events playing out on screen, I kind of felt like a psychopath a little bit. But it just made me so happy to see these characters again, doing new things, interacting in new ways, just existing. And that's how meaningful a story can really be to someone. I realized I had kind of just stopped waiting for a second season because being that excited for something for that long is exhausting. But during that first episode, it washed over me that this was real, that the second season actually exists. And at that point, it didn't matter what was happening, I was just happy that it was. Now, of course, it helped that I was completely gripped during episode 1 and immediately drawn back into this world, but I think that's sort of irrelevant to the point here. I had missed seeing this world, spending way too much time combing through episodes at hints to what might be coming, theorizing who certain characters could be, what motives they have, and what might happen next episode. It was the perfect week-to-week show because it leaves you with so many questions that you're thinking about it longer than you're even watching it. When you can simply just click next episode and know what happens, it hits a bit different in my opinion. Anyway, anime is super cool and I like it a lot. It had been 4 years since I had watched a new episode of ReZero, and yet it felt like hanging out with an old friend. I've talked a lot in the past about how important emotional connection is for me in anime, but this still genuinely surprised me. I've watched a lot of shows since 2016, many that I really like, and it sort of buried the memory of ReZero in my mind and on my top anime list. That's how important that personal emotional tie is and why a show can be viewed so differently simply based on how and who is watching it. Those memories of 2016, which were admittedly a lot more vivid than my memories of the show's plot, were what made me fall back in love with this show so quickly all over again. It's similar to when I talk about Trigger. It's tied to such a strong emotional memory that the happiness and enjoyment will spring forth kind of no matter what. So as far as ReZero Season 2 actually goes, it kind of already has me in its bag. I'm sure the suffering will come, but behind it will always be a certain level of joy, because I really did finally realize how damn important this show is to me.